Hello, everyone, and welcome to Visual Radio Goes to the Movies. And today we're going to have Darren Costa talk about The Little Mermaid, which is exploding. I see it's making a lot of money, or it's projected to this weekend, I guess. I was binging on not only Picard, on on Paramount. Picard, which is Star Trek: The Next Generation. But I'm going to have Darren ask me about Picard and Guardians of the Galaxies and the Yogi Berra movie and the John Lennon movie. Seen a lot of movies I have to review. But then I've been going nuts over Diagnosis Murder.
Mm-hmm.
It's an old Dick Van Dyke show.
Okay.
Do you know Dick Van Dyke?
I do. I don't know the shows, but I know who he is, yeah.
And the amazing thing about these people is that Dick Van Dyke had the Dick Van Dyke show in the 60s. So you get these things in your head about typecasting. You know, it's like you've got the Mary Tyler Moore and this one and that one. They all have their comedy shows. But then when they brought Raymond Burr out of the mothballs, Perry Mason, it was very odd because it was one of the most popular shows of all time, and then they just pulled it off the air, and it was, I think it was Raymond Burr didn't want to be in color. They did one show in color, the final one with Victor Buono, and he went and did Ironside and a couple of other things. But then in the late 80s, early 90s, late 80s I think it was, Fred Silverman and the other fellow, they brought back Perry Mason Returns. And they did a string of maybe 22 movies. So like they do 3 a year, and they were very popular. The ratings were huge on it. So there's a huge audience for Perry Mason. But then they came up with Matlock. Did you ever see Matlock?
I have. In passing, as a very young person, as you know, when I had the TV that did this.
Well, he had the Andy Griffith Show. But these are all out of the same kind of company. So they kind of took the Perry Mason theme, and then they gave it like Matlock. It might have been even simultaneous, but they had Andy Griffith as a lawyer. Diagnosis Murder came out, and it's Dick Van Dyke as a doctor at Community General Hospital, which I think is funny because there's that show, General Hospital. They call it Community General. There's always little inside jokes. But this is what I find fascinating about it. And this is while I'm watching Picard on Showtime, Paramount, and waiting for it every week because it was really, really good. So I'm watching these other things, these Perry Mason spin-offs, Matlock, and just like Star Trek and Perry Mason in the 60s, you see the same character actors show up. It's marvelous. It's if you're a fan of good acting and these names, it happened in the 50s and 60s, and then it happens again in the 80s and 90s where they're getting these people together. Now, I think it was season 6, episode 6, Alienation of Diagnosis Murder. They get Billy Mulmy from Lost in Space, and they get 4 or 5 people from Star Trek.
Oh, wow.
And the doctor, Jamie, he's being rattled by this kind of alien invasion thing happening. And it was a big spy versus spy thing, and they were spooking the guy. But then they have these Star Trek characters, which, if you advertise it today, or if Paramount was smart, they would take Alienation and build a Star Trek around it, where they go back in time and you get the old characters. And there's so much you can do now.
I mean, the production quality is amazing. How quickly the gap in time where things can almost double. You know, it took so long to get little improvements, and now things almost more periodically come out, and then they're double. You know, 4K to 8K or something. So it's unbelievable what they figured out.
Well, here's something, and I'm sure Aki can do it. So Tuesday night I'm at RCTV up in Reading, editing the Yogi Berra interview. So it looked great. And Owen is the guy editing for me. And Owen takes the image, because both Lindsay Berra, Yogi's granddaughter, and the director, Sean Mullen, are sitting next to each other. And I just got a one-camera shoot, and he takes the face of Lindsay and makes it, he zeroes in on it, and I'm like, oh, that's marvelous. It looks like a 3-camera shoot now. And this is just with Adobe Premiere. And then he
Yeah.
gets Sean Mullen, and then he puts the name tags. I'm like, oh, Owen, this is fantastic. It looks like a 3-camera shoot. When I just trekked over to the Hotel Commonwealth, put up a camera, taped.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So, and the audio is good from the camera with no lav. And I like that because there's just enough time to, I'm waiting to go into the interview. And then they come out and said, okay, you're up. And I had the camera all set up on the tripod, all ready to go. I just roll it in, all set up. We figured out the sun was getting in the way, so we moved. They went to the other side of the room, and we got a great shoot. But like you said about the technology, that we can make my older tapes, we can enhance them and bring out the faces, and those old shows that might be a little catch as catch can look incredible. So, but I mean, we've got 1,000 hours, and Aki volunteered to do the entire 1,000 hours. Isn't that nice, Sam?
Wow. Yeah.
All my early stuff from '95. He's really going to learn about Access TV. My 1979 show. I mean, we got plenty of work for Aki.
There's got to be sooner than later some sort of AI. What I've been looking for is someone to find clips of me of downloaded videos, so I don't have to go through and find all the clips I want. Right? What software do I get? And do I take the time to learn it, or do what I'm really bad at, pay someone to do it for me?
Well, I've got a computer tech, and he set me up with a Mac. I bought the Mac from him, and I got my PC. And he connected them, but I lived in Malden. So now they're unconnected, and I'm waiting for him to come to my apartment and redesignate it. But the Mac is jammed full of a lot of my TV shows. It's full, and I had to download them to another external hard drive. But I don't have the time, and I moved out of Malden, so, packing, moving, you can't do all the things you want to do in life. But there's so much content out there, people. We mean to entertain you. So let's get to some of the movies. You have a 10-month-old daughter?
I do.
And you brought her to the movies?
I did, and I was
her first?
shocked. That is her first. Yeah, I'm very shocked that it happened that early in life, to be honest with you.
But she behaved?
She did. She had, let me just put this nicely, she had certain requirements, and as long as those requirements were met, she was happy. I was like the paranoid parent because it was loud, and even my son was scared. And remember, like at first, I was clear that I was like, there's no way my wife would ever consider doing this, and that's how important the movie was to her. Is this very rare? It's got to be like vacation, but school year, we don't really do that. Bedtime 6:30. That movie started at 6:30 in Boston, but it was.
Which is early. It's usually 7.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, that was,
Okay.
I saw that. It was like, 6:30.
That was helpful for us. But,
They probably figured families.
It was worth the sacrifice. I think I had the only children there. I think, yeah.
Yeah, but there might have been 8, 9, 10-year-olds. No?
You know what? I'm not good at noticing this, but I would notice if there was another kid, especially my son's age, because he finds them. So I don't have to go looking for them. But either way, I was like so in the zone because it was so important to my wife. So it's like, you help create one of those kind of pivotal moments for us that, and the other thing is, remember the hype. I thought this movie came out months ago. You know what I mean? Like
It comes out today, the 25th.
Okay, wow.
And you saw it, on the...
Over a week ago at this point.
12th,
Was it the
10th?
16th? Yeah, before, I was gonna say, I know it's before the 16th, but I don't remember exactly when.
So how this works, people, is there's critic screenings. So I could go into Boston right now, and there's a movie probably today. I don't go to all of them. It's impossible. But there's maybe 15, 20 of us critics there, so we have the room to ourselves.
It's nice.
That's great. And I've been doing this for, since I was 15 years old. I was reviewing, I had my own little magazine. So I go into Boston and watch movies, and my parents really trusted me. But then in 2020, I got on the media list. So for 23 years now, I've been on this list.
Oh.
So we get offers. We could have interviewed a director on Sunday, but who has the time down?
I don't.
Right. And so that I got Sean Mullen on May 8th was significant. And Yogi Berra movie, Lindsay Berra. To get to May 8th was a lot of enormous work, but it's valuable. And these things are valuable for all time because we're getting insight into the movies. So we have the critic screenings, 15, 20 critics, whomever shows up. And there were these famous names, Joyce Gull Hayworth and David Brudnoy. And I watched the pattern. I would always sit in the front, you know, David Brudnoy in the middle and Joyce Carl Hayworth would be in the back. It's just really funny to see where people like to sit. I like the front. People don't generally like the front row. You know, but I've been doing it since I was a kid.
Yeah.
So then you got the screening that you went to, which is a merger of the critics and the public.
Oh, it was? Okay. I assumed it was all critics, but...
No. There were a lot of people.
There were, you know, but I didn't even think of...
If they give tickets where Kiss 108 or the other one there, what's the other, Jammin'?
Yeah.
Those I think are the two stations, and sometimes the sports stations give them away. If they do the giveaways, those are the audience, and then they will have like 4 or 5 rows that say critic.
I see.
And so if you looked up, there would be these papers, you know, critic or, you know, saved.
Right. They had swag.
Really?
They did, which is won my son over. So.
What do you mean they were giving it away? Or?
Yeah, little capsules, kind of, you know, with
Really?
toppers, and it had sand and little shells in it and a little message. So,
Wow.
of course, my son dumped it at least 1, so he got at least 3. I'm still digging up sand in different areas where I didn't expect to have it, but
That's something I didn't know, because they haven't done giveaways in a while.
oh yeah, it made for a terrific night, and I hopefully you know I thanked you. I hopefully
Oh,
I
yeah,
thanked
yeah,
you.
no,
And
it
this
was
is
my
an appropriate
pleasure.
time to thank you. It was a great night. It was again, you know, it's going to be a pivotal moment for my wife and the build up to this. And I'll give you an example. My wife loves to comment on different things on social. I'm not as much, more than over outreach for her. It gets personal. So she commented about her experience. She came to this country over 30 years ago, and thinking about what a princess was, and Disney is, I see it now with a child, is so influential over their attention. If you're not careful, they'll take hours of your kid's attention. So, you know, that's one of the princesses that she, you know, kind of felt represented who she was, regardless of what she looked like, you know, the personality. And the movie did a really cool job of diversifying the cast. For example, and I'm not good with names, right? So I'm just gonna call people by their role. But the father of the sea, you know, Ariel's father, had many different mermaids, and all of them represented what location they were in the world. You know, so if you were from a sea, you know, on the coast of Africa, would have been, I think, was a black woman, and there was various people representing different Asian countries, and then on the prince's side, the prince was white, didn't look any biracial, but you know, my daughter is very light, and she's biracial, but you know, he had a black mother, and I believe a white dad. With all the titles, like, I think I know who his dad was. You know, I wasn't into Disney movies, so this was actually probably the first time that I actually paid attention watching The Little Mermaid, which was cool. So they found a way to like diversify the cast without pointing out the fact that they did it, which I appreciated, because in a lot of movies you notice their intention in making you aware, the end user aware of the fact that, you know, something maybe looks different to some people, you know.
Disney's an interesting company, because Walt Disney wanted Mickey Mouse, and I think he was voted down, and his brother might have been on the board. And but you got to stick to your guns if you know something's going to be magic, and the mouse is magic.
The mouse is magic. I mean, my son's anxious to see the mouse, and there's no reason, you know, to him it's a live portion of his understanding. You know, I don't know how to explain it, but yeah, they capture. I'm just looking at my wife wanted to be here, and she would have brought my daughter if she wasn't so, you know, fussy. She just didn't want to. But do you mind if I go through her words a little bit?
Yeah, we're going to hear a little bit about The Little Mermaid.
Okay. So, you know, she mentioned that it instantly pulls her into that underwater world. I remember her saying that after the movie, is like, and you mentioned the technology. The technology of them underwater is amazing, right? So my wife was really gripped on, I felt like I was there with them. So.
Well, let me interrupt, and I'm not going to interrupt much. Was it animation or a merger of animation?
Exactly, and it was seamless. It was seamless.
Wow.
Right, because naturally they're not. I'm sure they're underwater for parts to kind of give a visual, but it's seamless. You know something exists, and I'm not. We'd have to ask the guy over there for the technical aspect of what's happening, but it's you would think we're underwater. You know, so
So
the
there were human
experience.
characters as well as in animation?
I guess the animation comes more for the surroundings of what's happening because of how well they depicted the characters as if they were really underwater. Okay, CGI. They were real people. Yeah,
Oh, they were real people. It wasn't, okay, so I thought
Right,
it was an
but
animated
at times
movie.
they were animated. Like for example, the tails are swinging, so there's some sort of
CGI.
yeah. Is that what it is? When
Yeah.
you kind of combine the worlds, but it's not like the movie with the blue people. I forget what that movie's called. But
Avatar.
That's like very. It's not like that. Like it's Holly. What's her name? The actress, who played Ariel. Bailey. Yeah, yeah. Holly Bailey, who her and her sister have become pretty famous for different reasons, but you know she sold the role very well. She was a great selection for that role. She's a singer. That's how she began her career, singer as a duo with her sister. They both were on a show which my wife watched, and then they are kind of moving on to their individual careers, and it's really cool to see these singers turn actresses. And she was a perfect, I think, representation of Ariel. So Ariel is just as curious, strong, and fun, witty, and brave as she was in the animated version. So I think she felt that Holly really she has the look. You know, she's a beautiful young woman. And then to have the kind of, you know, it's the small things, right? It's the way you look away, the way you look at someone, you know, the way your eyes look when you see someone for the first time, because naturally it's not really their first time. So yeah, so pretty early, let's see who the characters are. So they established the characters really well, and kind of what their purposes are. Again, Holly Bailey is simply stunning as Ariel. My wife wrote this a couple times. Her voice is magical and otherworldly, so they got a singer, right? She was primarily a singer prior. This is her first, you know, national role. She was on a show called Grownish, which was the spin-off of Blackish. And they played college roommates with, they were like, you know, whatever. They weren't the star of the show, but they were heavily involved. So she has that experience, but she's primarily a singer. So she was quick. My wife was quickly transported back to her 10-year-old self. That was a big deal to her, is like kind of being able to go back there and have the same emotions, but be able to kind of look at, you know, something that, you know, add some, I don't know, like some, you know, that, you know, there's like a validity to seeing your commonality with this person a little bit more than maybe she did at 10. And likely she didn't at 10. It's always the world around you that makes you feel different. You know, my wife watched that movie and I'm sure was possessed by that princess, because I can see how she shares personality traits with her. But then the world would remind her of things that probably took some of that away. So no one can take it away from her now, you know. So
The film experience, where did you sit?
we always sit, you know, where my son picks. It's rare that we go to movies for a date, you know. So.
Like the middle, or?
I don't know if we can post a picture during that.
That's okay, but
that's
in the middle of the theater or in the front?
Somewhere in the middle. We always want to be on the edge with the daughter to be able to kind of run out to the hallway just in case. You never know.
If they're
Kids
gonna
aren't
cry.
predictable, and I was on call, so I was the nearest one if I just pull and go, you know. So if anybody had to leave, it was me. There wasn't any debate on that one. Yeah, so middle, edge, my son picked, so I just say front is off limits because I have neck issues, so doing
Yeah.
what you enjoy doing would probably put me out for a day.
Yeah, but
So-
it's the family goes, and there's this great Disney movie, and you get to see it 14 days before everyone else.
That was I think the thrilling part for my wife. I just showed you the photo. We did that photo shoot months ago. So that was her 6 months. She's 10 months, so 4 months ago. And so you can see that you're talking about something that builds up for 4 months plus. She bought that on Amazon. I push back like I do on every, you know, she has to have like 6 outfit changes for this photo shoot just for my daughter, at least 6. And I haven't even counted because I'm scared to think about how much you see the Amazon packages every day. I'm like, Amazon, go away! I'm gonna lock the gate.
People are addicted to Prime. They're
I
addicted
know.
to getting stuff. It's like Christmas for them. So it's like they don't wait for someone to buy them a gift. They buy themselves a gift every other day. It's a weird thing because Amazon is like the new UPS. The trucks are everywhere.
Well, you're absolutely right. So diversification of businesses like Amazon, if they decided to, could spin off their own delivery services because they have a unique business model, just like all the others do. They could spin it off and they would compete with UPS and all the others. They have a network. That's the amazing thing about this century's management capabilities. You know?
It's like the record industry. You know, Polygram bought Island Records for like some ridiculous amount of money, and then Chris Blackwell buys Rounder from Boston for the distribution network, and I'm like, wait a minute, you had your own distribution network, but of course with all that mega money in your hand, you can do that, and they wanted, you know, just like you talk about UPS and Amazon trucks, record industry with distribution to the retailers. People don't see this. The general public does not see what's going on behind the scenes and how it all works. Back to the Little Mermaid. Did you personally enjoy it?
Oh, I loved it. Yeah, I loved it. Yeah, I mean, it's all about experience for me and less about, you know, like I said, Melissa McCarthy was great as, you know, as the Ursula. Like, I remember that name.
She's the comedian, right?
She's the comedian, and that's where the CGI really comes in because she's an octopus, and a very large octopus.
Oh, that's funny.
So the CGI there, and again, like what impressed, where I get lost in the movie is like, wow, where's the line that divides that technology to person? And people think about being replaced by technology, you know, but just to see a great actor, you know, be able to display emotion like Melissa McCarthy did also, is very cool. And then that dynamic, you know, that's what I was drawn to. I wasn't necessarily drawn to like the prince and princess dynamic. I was less about that. My wife is very endearing of that, and her love and wish of having feet or legs and being a human. Like, my wife is really into that struggle. I'm into like the villain, and then the relationship, that manipulative relationship that she had over Ariel, which all was part of a quarrel with her brother, who, you know, was the ultimate king of the sea. So it's, you know, I felt drawn to that part of the story. My wife feels drawn to another. And just kind of the last thing that my wife has, which was also important. It's funny because this one's important, but it's important different than Ariel, a lot different than Ariel. So the crab, who is Sebastian, who is played by David Diggs. I don't know who that is.
I know, I looked him up.
Okay, but Sebastian is like, if you don't even remember anything about Ariel, from what I found, and because I tell people, oh yeah, we went to see, you know, it's a big highlight. We went to see this. Oh, people will mention that they love Sebastian, and my wife is a Caribbean woman, and you have, you know, this little crab, right, protecting this young princess, so she feels, you know, very, and it's probably not just her, but, you know, she comes from a household of a single parent, just a mom, and she didn't have a lot of contact with her father. So, you know, you're 10, like, that feels a gap of representation, just having someone who is Caribbean, something that's familiar to you. So that, you know, it was a cool experience, and the little things matter. That little thing of sand, I mean, it's a thrill. And you gotta remember, with a 5-year-old, I mean, I always gotta find ways to say things, you know, kindly, I guess. But, you know, his swag is my responsibility. He has a balloon. Believe me, I'm doing whatever it takes to keep that thing from popping. So, or I might even have a backup with me just in case it does pop. So I made sure to get an extra little thing of sand, put in my pocket, didn't know about it. They had plenty, so I wasn't keeping anyone away from them. And, you know, Shirley, again, he opens it, he spills it. It's a guarantee. You give a kid something he can spill, the kid will spill it. So,
but it's a good memory for him, because I remember going to the drive-in in York Beach, Maine with Mom and Dad, and the four kids and Mom and Dad, and we were watching, I think it was the Unsinkable Molly Brown, which was the Titanic. And it focused on Molly Brown, but that's a memory etched into my brain. I mean, not the whole movie. I just remember being in this drive-in. I know exactly where it was. Like whatever the first town that you go to is, like not Kennebunkport, but Kennett something, and there was the drive-in, and then we would live in
I know
York
exactly
Beach.
what drive-in you're talking about.
Yeah. And that was like, 63, 62, 61. And, now it's 2023. So your child will remember this.
I hope so.
Oh, of course, because it's being with mom and dad at a movie, and it's a big Disney movie, and I think it's going to be a huge winner.
I think it's already, I don't know. My wife follows these things, so I wish
sent you a variety thing that they're projecting 184 million.
Okay. I saw that. Right.
I think
didn't
that's
know
a
if I heard it
projection.
from my wife and I forgot the number. The funny thing is, you have my budget book behind you. Likely, I can remember numbers from that more than. So, what stays with me is that experience with my son and my wife was an amazing experience. So, thank you.
It's out today, May 25th, but it's actually released on the 26th, tomorrow. But I think they have these Thursday night screenings, and then they estimate what Thursday will bring in, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And it's an amazing science, but there's so much writing on it, because a movie like this also brings people. It's like a big hit record album. It would bring people a new Michael Jackson album would bring people to Tower, and they would buy a Rolling Stones record or whatever, because they're all going to buy the new Michael Jackson, but they'll buy 3 or 4. Now that's not me. That's the general public.
Sure.
And so in the old days, when the retail was hot, movies are similar. Movies can help bring people to the theaters, and it's just such big money. Now, one movie came out last week, and it's doing great. Oh, Fast Five, which I'm not into that series at all. Do you know the Fast Five series?
I do, and I'm not into them also.
But it did phenomenal around the world, and it did about 64, maybe 94 million in America. And for the series, that was very low, whatever it did. It's a kind of weird experience, people, because we go to the movies, we love them, but they've got all sorts of market research people behind this, and we're being somewhat manipulated, but at the end of the day, as long as it's a good story and great acting, I'm happy.
What I really want to hear about is the Guardians of the Galaxies, because I've already asked some people that I know are into it, and I have gotten into the Guardian of the Galaxy, so I wondered what that was like.
Marvel people are all, they want to know stuff 6 months in advance. I liked Guardians of the Galaxies. It might be my favorite of the 3.
Okay, wow.
Now, I'm a big Fantastic Four and Spider-Man fan, and to me, all these movies are deficient. So, being a fan of the comic books, it sometimes drives me crazy, the way they're presented. But Guardians of the Galaxy, the thing that irks me about it is all the humor. I could do without it. I just want a science fiction movie that stays to the plot. But this one, there's a lot of controversy over this one because they use CGI animals.
Wow.
So the animals are tortured, but not on the screen. Only one of them. You can see the results of the megalomaniac who's behind all this, and he creates worlds. And if he's not happy with the creatures he creates, he just destroys them and starts again. So the Guardians want to stop this kind of practice. And then there's controversy, and people are saying, give it up. It's a CGI animal. They didn't hurt any animals. It's actually pro-animal, anti-abuse, if you think about it.
Yeah, of course.
See if Aki knows the answer to this question. I think CGI started in 1984 with The Last Starfighter. Do you remember that movie? Lance Guest. Lance Guest was supposed to be a big star. This was supposed to be like Star Wars, but this is where the CGI, you're at the Little Mermaid CGI. I'm at Guardians of the Galaxy CGI.
Yep.
So it really is pre-AI.
Oh, for sure.
Where they're manipulating the look, and some of it's spectacular. But Last Starfighter, if it was the first CGI movie with Lance Guest, it kind of missed the mark, and they didn't get to make a whole Star Wars series like many companies are trying to capitalize on Star Wars.
Makes sense.
Which Star Trek did. So as I'm going to be talking about, I'll talk about Guardians, then we'll get into Star Trek. But the whole thing about 1958, what? Vertigo by Hitchcock.
Wow.
Had CGI.
Wow.
Wow, is right. I'm blown away. But Last Starfighter was one of the first, I think, to really implement it in a huge way for science fiction. But that's great, Aki. I had no idea, and I'm a film critic. Wow. Vertigo, what date?
58.
1958. I was 4 years old.
You were close.
Yeah.
You were close.
Well, 30 years.
No, I'm saying you had guessed 62, I think. A movie that came out in 62.
No, I had said, I looked it up while you were talking. 1984 was Last Starfighter. That was one of the first significant CGI movies where they really went bonkers with it. And it again, in its infancy, it didn't work. It was okay. It was hokey.
Sure.
It'd be like a 1950s science fiction movie today. They were very cheesy.
Oh, but I think all technology advancements are, so.
What MGM did was, I think they did This Island Earth, which was a heavy-duty science fiction film, and they made Wizard of Oz, of course, so they know how to make these big, expensive movies. So that one is not a B movie, it's an A movie, This Island Earth. And you watch it, you can see the difference, and there's some actors in there that are well known. It's a good experience. So here we are, we're talking movies, visual radio goes to the movies. Guardians of the Galaxy had a lot of slam bang action, all three of them do. But they just escalated and escalated, and you wonder, is the bubble gonna bust? How long can you do that? So I'm an Avengers fan, I'm a Fantastic Four fan, and I watch the Avengers movies, and they're huge. They've made billions, right? And it's just too, like, over my head, too cluttered, you really gotta do this. The storyline and the villain would come from another dimension, which is fine, but it works better in a comic book. And you've got all this, hey, what do I know? They made billions. I've made many movies since 1971, and people see them on YouTube for free. But you know what I'm saying?
But they're master. We alluded to this, but they're master marketers, and so much is marketing.
Oh, the Blair Witch Project.
So much is marketing. Oh, I was scared. I remember watching the Blair Witch Project. What was it? It came out in '99-ish.
They're making a new one now. Aki, did you see the Blair Witch Project? Did you like it?
Were you scared after? You weren't scared after?
I couldn't stand it.
It depends. Where were you? Were you around that many trees?
I go to the woods and stuff, but it's
No, like after watching it, like.
after watching. Nah, it didn't scare me. I enjoyed how they created a movie with minimal budget
Right.
and playing on people's
Emotions, yeah.
The fear of not knowing and the guerrilla promotion behind it.
That was why I went to the Capitol Theater to see it. The promotion. I went as a marketing guy, and I didn't like the movie at all. It bored me to tears. But the marketing, we still discuss the marketing with my business. We discuss Coca-Cola and the Blair Witch Project.
Wow, okay. What a mix.
Well, I study both of them because we have, I have a new CD coming out in a couple of weeks, and it's something I've been working on since 1991, a series called The Demo That Got the Deal. How, Doris Troy with her great hit, Just One Look. And she said, well, that was the demo, Joe. I said, what? The hit record was the demo. And they just took the demo, and Atlantic put it out, and she's singing on Dark Side of the Moon with Pink Floyd. Doris Troy was a friend of mine, and she was very famous, and I'm honored that I got to be friends with her at the end of her life. I wrote up her Rainbow concert. She did a gospel show at the Rainbow in England. Joe, no one's paid attention to that album, and I love the thing, and she was so happy that I wrote up on AllMusic, which is a huge site, but I wrote up her Rainbow concert. Doris Troy is phenomenal in England. There's something called Northern Soul. American soul singers famous in the northern part of England. What? What a weird thing, right? And Northern Soul records sell for a ton on eBay. Doris Troy, Bobby Hebb, who's one of my dearest friends, Bobby Hebb, and Edwin Starr had a big hit called War. And War isn't why he's a Northern Soul star. They don't care about the hit, but these are soul singers from America that turned the British on. Well, the Beatles and the Stones were all into American soul. Those first albums are
makes
theirs.
sense. Yeah, makes sense.
So
They brought
and,
it there, and
and people don't know how the world works, and so music and movies, and of course, music goes hand in hand with movies because you can have a soundtrack. Grease propel a movie.
or Little Mermaid.
Is there a soundtrack out?
I guess because I mean she's a professional singer first.
Yeah, so it's probably on Hollywood Records. That's where a lot of them go in. And I don't know if Disney bought Hollywood, but again, you don't have the radio that we used to have. So for the whole market to hear one song, you need a hit movie. And a hit movie, everyone, people who listen to jamming and people who listen to country,
Yeah.
they all get to hear what's in the movie. So the movie is the new transistor radio, as is YouTube.
Yeah, all distribution channels.
Well, here's something very interesting. The Rolling Stones and Elton John are putting out box sets, which they never did before. Elton had one, but they retain all the stuff. Now they're putting out the box sets, and there's rare tracks. So you'd think they would leave the rare tracks,
Out of
so you
the
go
box.
to the store to buy it, right, just for the box. Mick Jagger, who's marketing genius, as is Madonna, as is Elton John, they're putting the rare tracks up on YouTube. So it's like, whoa, I can hear this stuff and review it, and I don't have to bother this, studio to send me the comp because I've got it right here on YouTube. And it's a phenomenon, and Jagger's no one's fool. He's not going to give it away if there's not a reason. They're using YouTube the way we used AM transistor radios back in the 60s.
And how's that?
You would turn on the radio and you'd hear a song for free.
Is
you
it
could turn
drawing people to their concerts? Are they? I know Elton
Exactly.
is doing his last tour.
That is going to be the biggest selling tour in history to this
Really?
date. Yeah, because it's been a 6-year tour. It's like Gilligan's Island, a 3-year tour, right? Star Trek, the 5-year tour.
Oh wow.
How we doing
3
for
years.
time, Aki?
It's 1:35.
37.
Oh, so we'll do another 10. And we have a guest in the studio. If our guest is here, he can come on and talk movies. Okay. So Guardians of the Galaxy is good. And let me I'm gonna go from film to film. How's that?
Yeah.
John Lennon film, The Lost Weekend. So in the 40s, there was a movie, The Lost Weekend, and it somehow had an impact on Lennon when he and Yoko split. And Yoko set him up with May Pang. So she wanted to be the one to set him up with the woman he was going to have an affair with, because I think they were both not being faithful, where they were like inseparable for years. And at this point, in the early 70s, they were starting to stray. So she set him up with May Pang, and it's a very important Beatles movie, because the Beatles are breaking up while the movie's happening, and you're getting insight on the John Lennon first 3-4 solo albums as the Beatles are disbanding. So all the Beatles solo albums had songs that were going to be Beatles songs had they not broken up. All Things Must Pass, and Maybe I'm Amazed, probably, so McCartney. So you could actually put a Beatles album together with the first
Wow.
few albums of all 4 of the Beatles, and you really have what would have been because there's some recordings of them messing
Singing
around with
together.
the songs,
Oh, interesting.
but not finishing them. So, pivotal point 1970, and this movie encapsulates that, but you're getting it from May Pang, and the big guest star is Julian Lennon. And the big thing is, while Yoko was keeping away Julian and Cynthia Levin, the first wife and the son, and she wouldn't let John get the phone calls. When May Pang is with John, she embraces Cynthia. They became very good friends, and Julian got Julian to see his father, and then Yoko acceded to that, and they were all one happy family again. But this movie's very, very important. There's footage in there. There's the Beatles breaking up and signing the contract for the breakup, and then Paul McCartney shows up, starts jamming with John, at a Harry Nilsson session. Now Harry Nilsson wrote. He wrote a big hit. I think Everybody's Talking, from the Midnight Cowboy movie. Again, that really helped propel the movie back in '70, and he had a big hit with the Badfinger song, "Without You." Mariah Carey did it. Can't live. So Harry Nilsson's recording with Lennon, and Paul McCartney shows up, and they say in the movie it's like they didn't even battle, because they were battling hard, and they just walked in like two old friends and started jamming. And significant historical movie that our friend Eric Taros was. Our friend Eric was here a few weeks ago or a month ago, and Eric was instrumental in helping with this movie. He's beneficial to all these Apple Beatles releases coming out, and we got him right here in Swampscott. Eric will be back on this show. So the Lennon movie is significant. It's really worth seeing. It's great. It's very well done. Which brings me to Yogi Berra. Did you know who Yogi was?
I do.
Were you a Yankees fan at all?
No, but I went to college in Southern Connecticut. I'm a Stag, Fairfield U, lots of New Yorkers. So I have other memories of my own that I won't ever forget, having to do with the Yankees. Not Yogi Berra, but the institution that is the New York Yankees.
Well, much like the John Lennon movie, and I brought this up in my interview with director Sean Mullen, who did the Yogi Berra movie, I noticed how the Lost Weekend, they jam-pack all the information in, but it isn't boring. So you get education, you get a history, while you're riveted to the screen, because what an art to be able to pack it in. In the Yogi Berra movie, I said, man, it's like, it's not Wikipedia, but it is. He goes, well, Joe, that's funny. And you'll see in the clip, because I might attach the clip to this show we're doing now.
Okay.
And Sean says, he feels that a lot of documentaries are just boring Wikipedia, and his movie doesn't bore. So the Yogi Berra movie is very educational. This is the kind of stuff kids should be seeing in school.
Oh, wow.
They should be watching the Yogi Berra movie for its rich history, the technique, and same with the John Lennon Lost Weekend. Both these films are worth your while because they're rich in history, very well done, photos that I've never seen, and being a Beatles fan, to me it was more exciting than the Get Back movie, which was like 12 hours, 8 hours, Peter Jackson did, and even Eric's other movie there, 8 Days a Week, because we've seen it all, we know it all, we just want to see it because we're Beatles fans, but the Lost Weekend is a revelation. With the others, we kind of know it, we just want to see it again, and oh good, a different take of Let It Be. That's awesome. But we know the music. This is a discovery system. You get this whole discovery. So we've covered Guardians, Little Mermaid, a little bit of Star Trek on TV, Diagnosis Murder. So I'll bring us back to Perry Mason. The whole Perry Mason thing, spinning off this Matlock and Diagnosis Murder, and what they do with them, and the actors in them, and the acting is, even if it's a 60-minute TV show of Matlock or Diagnosis Murder, much like Law and Order, SVU, and Law and Order, they're mini movies. They're like 60-minute movies. Law and Order, they spend a fortune.
I watched a lot of Law and Order, yeah.
And you know that you see it like 2 or 3 weeks, and then you don't see it for 3 weeks.
Okay.
Because they're so expensive to make.
I didn't know.
And they but the acting is superb. The scripting is superb.
Amazing.
And so too with Diagnosis Murder and Matlock. Yeah, there's some annoying things in them, but these are very special old TV shows, and I study them. I study the acting, I study the actors, I study the directors. Christian Nyby II is the son of Christian Nyby, who directed many Perry Masons. Then he had his son directing them. Then they brought the son back for the remakes. So you've got the directors, and you've got it's real craftsmanship. So I don't want us just to be two talking heads. So maybe we'll attach the Yogi Berra interview from May 8th onto this show. Might be able to do that next week. Anything else?
Oh, Haitian Heritage Month in the city of Everett. We had the Haitian flag raising, which I'm sure Aki has plenty of footage of. Out here in City Hall, where the side entrance is where a lot of these events happen on Church. They close off Church at the corner of Broadway.
Oh, really?
So the Reverend Merland from EHCC, which is over down Broadway also, not far from the convenience store. What is it, a Rite Aid now or a Walgreens? I lose track of what it is. Did a great job hosting and leading the conversation. Lots of different pivotal people in the community spoke, and Haitian Flag Day was a success, big success. And then they had another couple of events related to the Haitian Heritage Month. So it was the Jubilee, so 50 years of Haitian culture here in Everett. It's their 7th flag raising, so they have a commitment from the city that this will live on as Haitian Heritage Month, rightfully so. So I have the red, I have some blue under here, I have blue socks too. So I meant to bring the flag. Very
Did anyone videotape?
Possibly ECTV did.
Did ECTV videotape the Haitian Flag Day?
Oh, yeah, they get
so you
everything.
can watch it on ECTV?
You can, yeah. Great broadcasting. I'll tell you, the quality of broadcasting here has gone up, up, up. And the logo looks great. I love it. It's
You know the
beautiful.
Regent Theater in Arlington?
I do.
You were born in
I
Arlington?
went to school across the street. I was born in Somerville. Come on.
Somerville. Oh,
Yeah.
and then you went to Arlington.
I was bused to Arlington.
Well, do you know I started in Somerville and went to Arlington?
Me too.
No, we both have the same
Wow,
pattern here.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, my grandmother lived on Rogers Ave, and so we lived at Rogers Ave, and then Dad bought a house. Mom and Dad bought a house in Arlington,
Wow.
Beverly Road on the lake.
We never got the house in Arlington, but I went to school there.
Yeah, so I went to.
Oh,
St.
you were on the
Agnes.
lake, Beverly?
Yeah.
Do you know Robin Hood Road?
Yeah, of course.
Really?
I was the paper boy.
My whole high school career, I was there, by the water, by the Medford Boat Club. They have the public beach. I had my girlfriend, who I got the Beatles thing from to bring 2 shows together, who got me the job as a young entrepreneur. She lived there. She has one of those lots where her backyard is the lake there. It's pretty amazing. One of my best friends lives inside on Intervale, which is the inside corner. So we caused havoc in that neighborhood. Let me tell you.
Well,
Anyways, lots of friends.
67, 68, I was the bike. I would be on my bike.
How'd you get up
delivering
that hill?
papers. I did. It was a
How'd
kid.
you get
It
up
was
that hill?
strong. But anyways, I brought up the Regent Theater. We're going to close out here. The Regent Theater would have Bollywood movies.
I had no idea.
You know what Bollywood
I do.
is? Yeah. So the Bollywood movies were at the Regent Theater before it became more of a concert club now. But for years, Richie over there, because I did some videotaping for him, great guy. And my old friend Leland Stein, I guess, is now partner with Richie. But my question to you is, are there Haitian movies the way India has Bollywood movies?
Haitian media. There's a lot of music-centric media, like videos, music videos.
I wonder if there are any Haitians that
But
make it a commitment to do Haitian.
Like, for example, Little
film.
Mickey is very famous in Haiti. He ran for president. It was a big thing, so that, the live, if you think about, I visited Haiti and, you don't need televisions there.
Well, yeah, and what's a kind of moot point about my question is you can go to YouTube or Google and find these things out.
Mm.
But I just bring the question up because you have the Haitian Festival and ECTV taped it, and that's
Wonderful.
history there.
Yep.
And I'll close by saying I want to integrate the films from ECTV and other access stations with the libraries. That's always been a big thing of mine.
Yeah.
So we're going to have the libraries in here soon. Multiple libraries, I hope, as we talk more about Everett today. But this is Visual Radio Goes to the Movies. Today is May 25th, 2023. And we thank Akenil Staples for directing, Darren Costa, my host. And we got more movies coming.